43 million. Okay, just let that number sit with you for a second. That is the staggering number of concurrent viewers who tuned into a single live stream, all to watch one guy mastermind a run chase against New Zealand in the 2023 World Cup. I mean, imagine taking the entire population of New Zealand, multiplying it by 8, and cramming every single one of those people into one giant digital stadium just to watch a single athlete perform under the most intense pressure imaginable. The pull of this guy is so absolutely gravity-defying that when he walks out to the crease, it's like the digital world literally stops spinning just to watch him. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are breaking down the unprecedented cultural and commercial phenomenon that is Virat Kohli. And look, even if you haven't watched a single over of cricket in your entire life, the blueprint of his influence actually affects how brands market to you every single day. Okay, let's dive into this. We're not just going to sit here and look at highlight reels. We're going to do a systematic deconstruction of his power. We're going to look at the raw data, the psychological grip he has on his fans, the hard science behind his massive brand endorsements, and finally, a really unexpected, deeply personal pivot he's making away from it all. So here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll look at the numbers to really grasp the scale of his reach. Then, the persona to decode all the hype. Third, the business and the fascinating science of endorsement. And we'll wrap up with the human cost, looking at a pretty surprising revelation about his digital life. All right, moving right in. Section 1, the numbers, the scale of global stardom. We just talked about those crazy live viewership records, but honestly, his permanent digital footprint is arguably even more mind-blowing. 270 million. That's his Instagram follower count right now. Think about your own follower count for a second, and then digest this. He isn't just the most followed cricketer on the planet. He is the third most followed athlete globally. He's sitting right up there, only behind Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. He's got nearly 10 times the following of the next closest cricketer, MS Dhoni. Now, you gotta contextualize this, right? This is happening within a country of over 1.4 billion people that's going through one of the most rapid internet revolutions in human history. Every single post is beamed to this highly engaged, massively expanding population. Having that kind of digital real estate, it gives him an unparalleled sphere of influence that completely transcends the sport. Which brings us to Section 2, the persona, decoding the hype. Let's dig into exactly why this incredible, almost cult-like following exists in the first place. So on side A, we have Chiku. This was his childhood nickname. It was affectionately given to him by an early coach because he had this super close-cropped haircut that made his ears stick out exactly like a small sapodilla fruit, a chiku. I know, it's kind of hard to imagine him like that now, but hey, we all start somewhere, right? Then over on side B, we have King Kohli, the absolute undisputed royalty of modern cricket. Going from Chiku, this promising teenager, to King Kohli took a monumental, almost obsessive physical and mental transformation. But listen, this royal title, it isn't just empty fan hype born out of thin air. It's backed by cold, hard stats. He's the only batsman in the entire history of the sport to maintain an average of over 50 in all 3 international formats simultaneously. Doing that across tests, ODIs, and T20s, that requires an almost robotic level of consistency. But his impact goes way beyond just putting runs on the board. Kohli represented a massive cultural shift for Indian cricket, and really for Indian youth in general. Historically, Indian teams were brilliant, but they were often seen as a bit polite, a bit reserved, maybe even carrying a slight inferiority complex when traveling to places like Australia or England. Kohli, he entirely erased that. He brought in this unapologetic, bold 21st century mindset. He'd absorb all that hostility and pressure and literally reflect it back as pure, unadulterated aggression. And off the pitch, the guy became a total master of his own image. In an era where athletes are so heavily managed, he took the wheel. In fact, in the advertising world, while other veteran captains might need 4 or 5 takes to nail a scripted line, Kohli is legendary for being a one-take wonder. He just seamlessly memorizes and delivers his lines with absolute, unblinking conviction. Actually, just listen to this pregame talk he gave to his team before a really high-stakes match against England. He said, for 60 overs, they should feel hell out there. I mean, wow. That single sentence perfectly captures his essence. He didn't just play the game, he fundamentally rewired the Indian team's body language. He took his pace bowlers and turned them into these aggressive, relentless machines hunting in packs. And that raw, unfiltered intensity, the pumped fists, the fierce celebrations, that is exactly what forged such a visceral connection with his fans. He basically became the emotional avatar for millions of people who just wanted to see their country unapologetically dominate on the world stage. All right, let's pivot to Section 3, the business, the science of endorsement. We're shifting from the cultural hype to the hard science of celebrity marketing. Get this, Kohli holds a staggering brand valuation of $238 million, and he commands roughly 1.3 crore rupees for a single Instagram post. Let's look at the science of why. So to figure out if paying him millions actually translates to sales, researchers applied something called the Ohanian source credibility model. Academics use this framework to evaluate an endorser's power, especially when targeting that super lucrative 18 to 30-year-old demographic. Think about the last time an influencer actually convinced you to buy something. It wasn't magic, right? It probably came down to 3 specific pillars. Attractiveness, meaning they're familiar, likable, and visually appealing. Trustworthiness, meaning you feel confident they're being valid and honest. And expertise, meaning they're recognized as a dependable, skilled source in that area. Researchers basically wanted to know, do Kohli's massive scores across these 3 pillars actually get his millions of followers to pull out their credit cards? And this brilliantly illustrates the power of real-world testing. Researchers ran this fascinating A/B test using 2 of Kohli's actual sponsored posts. On one side, you have an ad for ROG, an edgy youth apparel and fashion brand. On the other side, an ad for Unacademy, which is an academic e-learning platform for students. They surveyed his young followers to see how viewing these specific ads impacted their genuine intent to purchase the product. Keep in mind, this is the exact same megastar, the exact same massive audience, but pushing 2 completely different industries. Well, the results were striking, and honestly kind of a mystery at first glance. For Rhone, the clothing brand, Kohli's endorsement had a highly positive, statistically significant impact. People saw the ad, bought into his whole style, and immediately wanted the clothes. But for Unacademy, the e-learning platform, his endorsement had absolutely 0 significant influence on purchase intent. None. His credibility aligns perfectly as a fashion and lifestyle icon when he's selling t-shirts, but his sporting expertise, it completely fails to sway consumers when they're making serious, academic choices about their education. It really proves that even if you're the most famous, universally loved athlete in a country, celebrity power isn't just a magic wand. The psychological fit between the persona and the product is absolutely crucial. You can't just slap a famous face on something and expect it to fly off the shelves if the core expertise doesn't match up. Which brings us to our final part. Section 4, the human cost, disconnecting the digital. So, having built arguably the most valuable, scientifically proven digital real estate in his entire sport, we hit this really profound irony. Kohli is now actively withdrawing from it all. He stated, quite simply, it's become too complicated. In a recent super candid interview, he admitted he's consciously trying to cut down his screen time. He said that the sheer volume of notifications, the intense, unbelievable traction he gets the second he posts something, it literally physically takes his energy away. It's exhausting. And that is energy he'd much rather spend on his real life, his physical game, and most importantly, his family. The very digital world he conquered is the one he's now actively trying to escape. So the crucial point is that he's drawing a strict, permanent line between his personal reality and his professional brand commitments. Honestly, most of what you see on his feed these days are just brand deals he's already agreed to fulfill. He absolutely refuses to post his personal milestones or family moments for public consumption anymore. He explained that posting about winning a championship doesn't actually increase the baseline happiness in his heart. He said, and I think this is beautifully put, me posting about it is not going to give us 2 trophies. The reality stays the same. It's a pretty sobering realization, isn't it? That all that digital validation, no matter how huge it is, just cannot multiply real-world joy. It leaves us with such a fascinating question to ponder. When your digital brand is worth millions, is walking away the ultimate power move? It really forces us to step back and think about the immense psychological toll of modern megastardom. Virat Kohli mastered the raw numbers. He perfectly engineered the persona. He completely conquered the business of cricket. And yet, his greatest, most hard-won realization seems to be discovering the profound, irreplaceable value of digital silence. Finding peace away from the screen might just be his greatest victory yet. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time. 43